The four states' most watched news starts now.
Good Thursday morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News where it's 5 o'clock. I'm Michael Hayslip. Coming up this half hour, Missouri Southern announces head football coach Jeff Sims has been relieved of his duties as the leader of the program. We'll have the latest, and as ominous monoliths continue to sprout up around the world, we want to know what you think they are. We're going to check that out on the KOAM News Now Facebook page and our morning Insta poll. But first, a check on our 7-day forecast, and we'll start with the Skywatch Storm Tracker that is complete with not only rain, but a little bit of snow flipping over as well. Now, the nice thing is that stuff you see right there on I-44 in between, say, Monette, Mount Vernon, that area, nah, it's not going to be able to stick around because our ground is above the freezing point. Freeman Health System sky camera right now, 35 degrees. We will take that. That's a key number right there. No reason to talk about the wind chill because the temperature is the important thing. So we saw that little patch of snow flipping over there around Monette. It's 36, so it's not going to hamper our travel whatsoever. I saw some big fat flakes this morning. Not going to amount to anything. 39 in Parsons, already 40 in Oswego, so we'll take it. Still got that line of Gulf moisture. Did make a little easterly push really now from the Gulf up through Arkansas and the Mississippi River. We're just on the west side of it as compared to the east side like we were yesterday. As far as our weather trend goes, it is going to be a chilly one. We're going to be in the low 40s all day long, but as long as we stay above 32, we are good to go. Well, everything kind of dissipates by the afternoon, pushes off to the east, and after that, we get to sit back and, hey, like I said, we get through today. We got a nice little weekend ahead of us. Whole lot of sunshine on the 7-day forecast, looking pretty dry there as we continue all the way into the middle of next week.
It's coming down out there. It's rain, anyway.
No, I saw snow. We had
You
snow
saw
earlier.
snow too?
Yep.
Ah,
We did.
little bits of it.
Allie, I got you. She got dispatched.
All right.
Yeah, we had, they were the big fat flakes that as soon as they hit your windshield, gone.
Gone. Well, and
Goner.
that's what you said. Let it go. It'd be gone.
Yeah, okay, and even where we're seeing it right now, like I said, Monette's 36. It's nice sticking around.
All right. Thanks, Michael. Well, some students at Pittsburgh State University get a much-needed financial boost as the university finishes distributions of CARES Act funding. In the summer, PSU applied for the Higher Education Emergency Relief Fund that would send schools money to use for emergency grants for students who were displaced due to the pandemic. PSU received a total of more than $2.6 million for students. The funds were distributed in 3 phases. The first phase went to Pell Grant students who automatically qualified to receive the funds. The second and third phases were distributed to students who applied for the funds and were eligible. Full-time students received $800 and part-timers received $400, with leftover funds distributed amongst all eligible students.
We tried to unilaterally share the rest of the funds equally amongst all the students.
Distributions have been completed and around 2,500 students received the funding. Well, new data suggests learning loss during the pandemic hasn't been as bad as originally feared, and that's according to the nonprofit student assessment organization NWEA. Organization says reading assessments were similar this semester to fall of 2019, and in math they were between 5 and 10% lower. That's nationwide. And for grades 3 through 8, Joplin says they've seen similar numbers. Their reading assessment showed a 3% drop and math dropped 10%.
I think what every district in Missouri is trying to mine out of that data is how do we accelerate our students' growth, because in the end, we don't want them to have learning loss. We want that good learning to take place.
We'll hear more about current and upcoming assessments in Joplin and Neosho tonight coming up later in the show, excuse me. On Monday, the Joplin City Council held a strategic planning session and came up with a list of goals for the city to reach. One of those involves improving the city's appearance. That includes public areas maintained by the city. Areas like sidewalks, curbs, right-of-ways, and city parks are all part of that goal for areas of improvement. City leaders say they developed this goal after noticing some of the city's public areas were not quite up to the standards they'd like. However, the new contract with the Parkwood Tournament LLC should help the Parks Department get back to what they need to focus on.
That's going to allow us to reallocate some of our time that we've spent on athletic facilities over to the Parks Department, simply helping us, trash pickup. And when I say trash pickup, I'm not talking about out of trash cans. It's just trash that's throughout our parks.
That goal also includes areas like streets, sidewalks, and curbs that are in need of improvement. Well, police say a chain of events led to a crash in this convenience store on South Main Street in Miami. An SUV hit a car. The car was pushed up and hit the store. The wall didn't collapse, but the building does have structural damage. No one was injured. The Otter Stop convenience store is still open for business. The Otter Stop. Michael's favorite
Is everybody
animal.
okay?
Yes. Everyone's okay. A little bit of structural damage to the Otter Stop.
No, I'm a big fan of the Otter Stop. Yeah, no,
I know, that's like one of your favorite mascots.
That's a normal stopping place for the Hayslip household right there.
Sorry, inside story there. The Southwest Missouri man will stand trial next year in the death of his wife, whose body was found inside a freezer last year. Authorities charged Larry Dinwiddie of Marshfield with second-degree murder, abandoning a corpse, and armed criminal action in the death of his wife, Cynthia. During a Webster County court hearing, Dinwiddie's trial was scheduled for November 2021. Investigators have said Cynthia Dinwiddie's body was found in November of 2019, locked in a freezer in an abandoned storage unit near Marshfield. Detectives believe her body had been there since 2015. Dinwiddie was arrested last year at the storage unit. According to a court affidavit, Dinwiddie admitted to killing his wife with a hammer during an argument. Governor Laura Kelly said Wednesday the state expects to receive its first shipment of a COVID-19 vaccine in a few weeks. She said the vaccine will be distributed in 3 phases, and her plan is in line with recommendations from the CDC. According to Governor Kelly, Kansas is expected to receive 24,000 doses of Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine in mid-December, and roughly another 49,000 from Moderna shortly after. In all, the state is expecting to have 150,000 doses by the end of December, with more coming in weekly after that. Great news. Joplin Health Department says 3 more people have died with COVID-19. Health Department says 2 were residents at a long-term care facility. They were a 75-year-old man and a 59-year-old woman. A third was a 77-year-old man. The latest deaths bring the city's total to 65. Jasper County Health Department is reporting 2 more deaths, bringing the county's total to 79. The patients were a man in his 70s and a woman in her 50s. It's 5:07.
Let's go ahead and remove our satellite cloud cover. We can just talk about precipitation, seeing a little bit of snow flip over there in between Monette and Mount Vernon. But once again, it's in the mid-30s out there, so it's really not sticking around. The rest of it remaining is rain. Only storm reports we have coming out of Wichita and to the west, where they got about an inch of snow. Not too bad out there. We're going to have a rainy morning. It's going to stick around till the afternoon hours. East wind, 5 to 10 miles per hour. Temperatures today only in the low 40s. So it's going to be chilly out there, but then after we're done with our rain for today, back up into the 50s with sunshine into the weekend.
That's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Up next on the KOAM Morning News, the latest as Missouri Southern announces head football coach Jeff Sims has been relieved of his duties as the leader of the program. Plus, as ominous monoliths continue to sprout up around the world, we want to know what you think they are and where they're coming from. And the CDC is once again asking Americans to rethink their holiday travel plans for Christmas and the New Year's time frame. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back.
Missouri Southern announced yesterday that head football coach Jeff Sims has been relieved of his duties as the leader of the football program. Lions now looking for a new head coach for the second time in a little more than 2 years. Here's our own Jacob Leonard.
Jeff Sims is out after just 1 season as head football coach at Missouri Southern.
You could see that the vision for the university and maybe my vision weren't on the same page, and so when there's new leadership, they have the right to pick their team and move in their direction.
Missouri Southern Athletic Director Jared Bruggeman announced in a release on Wednesday that Sims would be relieved of his duties and that he and President Dean Van Galen will meet with the players this week regarding the change. The department declined to comment further at this time.
There really wasn't a reason given, and I don't know that they have to give a reason. Dr. Van Galen treated me fairly, and I'm sure he's going to go find somebody that fits his vision and what he sees Missouri Southern football being in the future.
Linebackers coach Joe Batasso will serve as interim head coach through the spring, with a national search for a new head coach beginning soon. As for what's next for Sims,
in my life, I've always hit bumps and roads, but God's always has a great plan, and His plan's always been better than mine. I want to be with people that want to win. I'm proud of what I've done as a football coach, and so we'll get new opportunities, and we'll pursue that, and we'll go from there.
And although he was at Southern for just 24 months, he hopes he made an impact on the program.
I think they're all going to be successful, and I'll be successful. I just hope that that whoever comes in next gives the players the opportunity to prove themselves, rather than just thinking that they're another coach's guys. They're really good players on the team.
Interim head coach Joe Batasso not only graduated from Joplin High School, but also played at Missouri Southern State University for coaches Bill Cook and John Ware. The Lions finished 2-9 in their only season under Jeff Sims in 2019, unable to play this fall due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Last night was opening night of the girls basketball invitational at Carthage High School, tipping things off Webb City Cardinals against Miller. Now, Webb City was a little short-handed last night in that first game of the season. First quarter, nice little inbound to Kaylee Helton. Then on the other end, JD Duda collects her own miss. That's called tough basketball right there. Duda just hangs with it, gets it in the foul. Duda and Helton went back and forth in the first half. There's Helton, corner three. She had 17 in the first half, 22 on the night. Duda says, watch this. I got 10 at the break, 16 in the game. Third quarter, Peyton Richardson says, I'm going to take over now. She finishes in transition for Miller High School. Moments later, Richardson cuts to the rim, gets the pass from Helton. Finally, Richardson, bucket, foul. She had 13 in the third quarter alone. She would finish with 17 as Miller beats Webb City 63-38. Nightcap, Tigers. Carthage against Lamar. Kiana Yates on the break for Carthage to Katie Crow. Crow with 10 points. Hot start for Carthage. Yates with the steal. Goes the other way. Finishing himself. There we go. Home team up 14-6. Sierra White spins, scores for Lamar. She makes it a 5-point game after the first quarter, but Kiana Yates not letting up. Check out the floater. Woo! Then in transition, see ya! Yates, 28 points last night. Carthage takes down Lamar, 59-29. Still to come on the KOAM Morning News, the CDC once again asking Americans to rethink holiday travel plans for Christmas and New Year's. And to check on our 7-day forecast when the KOAM Morning News returns. Just a little past 5:17, still a great time for weather on the 7s. Freeman Health System Sky Camera in Joplin, where we sit at 34 degrees. Very key number right there that we're able to stay above the freezing mark, because that's going to keep everything as rain through the central portion of the 4 states, and even what we're seeing right here in that wintry mix in between Monette and Mount Vernon. That snow is not going to stick around. They got a little bit of a mess out here by Wichita. Even got some storm reports where they picked up inch and a half of accumulation of snow. Give you an idea of what we're dealing with here. They're also going to pick up more on the east side of the Ozarks. We're just kind of lucking out. I know that there are some people anticipating wanting to see a whole lot of snow, but for the most part, let's just be happy that our travel is going to really be, impact's going to be minimal. Is what we're going to see. Good amount of rain down here in northeast Oklahoma, close 2.5, 3 inches right there. Everywhere from an inch and a half in the dark and lighter green right there. And then as we work into the blue up north, where it managed to stay dry for most of the afternoon and yesterday evening, that's about a tenth to about half an inch of rain. And once again, we are very lucky that everybody stays well above 32. So for the bus stop forecast, of course, not going to see a whole lot of sunshine early, even after sunrise at 7:15 over Joplin, as the rain is going to persist through the morning. I have seen a lot of movement in the jet stream. We were able to buck that system for the northeast, kick it out. It no longer exists. And now we're starting to open this up. Yesterday was about a full circle. And that's kind of dangerous when that happens, because they don't want to move a whole lot. So now that we've kind of opened it up like that, it's beginning to push toward the Mississippi and get out of here. And that was indicated by Future Track right there. It not only breaks up, but then once again, watch the cloud cover take that easterly push. Still going to be chilly, though, not only today, high in the low 40s, but overnight, too. There's a slip below freezing. Yeah, that rain, since it's not going to stick around, that's really not going to have much of an effect. It's not going to refreeze or anything like that. And then look at what we got headed into the weekend. It's going to be marvelous, as we're going to have temperatures that get back into the 50s and a whole lot of sunshine. Bless you, Allie, our camera operator. She's got allergies. What can you do? KOAM News Now Facebook page this morning. In Oklahoma town honoring a holiday with a classic inflatable statue of the leg lamp. Need I say more? It's the leg lamp. Chickasha paying tribute to A Christmas Story. It's a 40-foot leg lamp being displayed as part of the city's annual festival of lights that also includes a 70-foot Christmas tree. They're hoping it draws a little tourism, obviously. Now, if 2020 couldn't get any more bizarre, another mysterious monolith has popped up, this time in California. Once again, stainless steel, 10 foot tall, third statue of its kind to appear in the last few weeks, second in the United States. You had that one that popped up in Utah. Last week you had one that popped up in Romania. This time, California. Three-sided structure, just like the one in Utah. This one's not firmly in the ground. And like I said, the other two just, whoosh, I'm like Usual Suspects. I'm like Kaiser Sose. And like that, whoosh, it was gone. Our question to you, let's have some fun this morning. Where do you think the monoliths are coming from? Why are they there? And for you fans of 2001 and 2010, Arthur C. Clarke, what do you think they mean? Let us know on Facebook and also KOAMNewsNow.com/vote for our Insta poll. Health Watch is next.
Topping Health Watch this morning, the CDC is once again asking Americans to rethink their holiday travel plans for the Christmas and New Year's timeframe. This as we're learning more details about the policy for getting vaccines to Americans. Laura Engel has the story.
It's one of the things that gives us, of course, great hope.
December is shaping up to be a busy month in the race for a vaccine, now that 2 COVID-19 vaccine candidates have been submitted for FDA approval. Both Pfizer and Moderna appear on track to be approved, with millions of doses that could be shipped and distributed by the end of the month for frontline healthcare workers and those living in long-term care facilities.
Of course, we're all eager to have enough supply to vaccinate every American who wants it. And because of Operation Warp Speed, we expect to be at that point in the spring.
Hard-hit Texas announcing today it will get 1.4 million initial doses of the coronavirus vaccine for the month of December. Those working with elderly patients who have been deemed top priority say that designation gives them a sign of hope.
Let's protect those who need the most protection right now, and eventually all get taken care of.
As the nation looks ahead to what may come next, Dr. Anthony Fauci says if a majority of Americans get the vaccine by the middle to the end of April of next year, that's when we could see things really start to turn around.
Which means you'd have herd immunity that would allow you to safely get people back to the kinds of works that would otherwise be difficult as you get to the middle and end of the summer.
The CDC officially released revised guidance on quarantine time for those who may have been exposed to the coronavirus and have tested negative. The director of the CDC says data has led them to make the change from 14 days to 7 days, and those who have not been tested to have to quarantine for 10. The United Nations votes to reclassify marijuana for medical use as a less dangerous drug. The UN's Commission for Narcotic Drug approved a World Health Organization recommendation on Wednesday to remove medical marijuana from a category of the world's most dangerous drug. It was listed alongside highly addictive narcotics, including heroin. Highly anticipated decision was praised by advocates of drug policy change, who have long argued that the international law is out of date. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News.
A good amount coming down right in between Carthage and Lamar on I-49. It is rain right now, and then as we get in between Monette, Mount Vernon, push up to Greenfield, oh, matter of fact, working all the way down to Cassville right now. We got some light snow coming down, but temperatures are in the mid-30s, so nothing's going to stick. It's not going to impact travel at all. No storm reports to speak of. Got a little snow coming down far western portion of southeast Kansas as well. Cloudy, cold. That's kind of going to be our theme for the day. There's a satellite cover, so not a whole lot of sunshine after sunrise at 7:15. We'll eventually kick the rain out. Everything will flip back over to rain. Be done by the afternoon, stuck in the low 40s, but then get ready for a delightful weekend. All the latest on the Skywatch weather app.
4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 5:30. I'm Tanya Bach. Coming up this half hour, as those ominous monoliths continue to spread up around the world, we want to know what you think they are. Make sure you join in on our Facebook discussion on KOAM News Now and weigh in on our Insta poll question, KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. And our very own Jesse Irwin sits down with Olympic silver medalist and Kansas politician Jim Ryan. But first, a check on your forecast.
I don't know why you're laughing about those monoliths. I told you, it was 2001, man. You know what those monoliths can do if you're an Arthur Clarke fan. Don't joke about them.
I'm trying to think of the theme music to back that up.
It's Astra.
No, I'm just making something up.
Yeah, I know. No, you're taking Arthur C. Clarke and putting it to Stanley Kubrick's movie.
I'll take that.
Is what you're doing.
I'll take it.
Okay. Live look outside of Television City. Actually just kind of monitoring traffic right there, making sure
it's not a monolith, it's the American flag.
Slip sliding away, and they're not, because everything really is staying as rain. Even the snow that we're seeing from Cassville, Monette, Mount Vernon, and a little bit of it intruding there is flipped over on the north side of Joplin. With our temperatures being in the mid-30s, nothing's going to stick. You know, if you walk outside and you see some good old-fashioned snowflakes, probably going to melt as soon as they hit a surface that is going to be concrete, asphalt, or something else you're going to travel on. Freeman Health System sky camera, 34 degrees. We will take that because with everything sitting from mid to high 30s, that is a key factor of making sure we don't have any travel concerns as the band of Gulf moisture is now pushed east toward the Mississippi River. Still going to be a chilly Thursday, though. Low 40s is as good as we're going to get. But as we work into the afternoon hours, you'll notice all flips over to rain, pushes off to the east. Cloud cover really doesn't go anywhere until tonight into tomorrow. So we'll get down back to freezing here for Thursday night into Friday morning. But then we're going to roll 50s and sunshine all the way through the weekend.
I like that. 50s and sunshine. It should be a great weekend.
It's going to be, the weekend is going to be great. And the nice thing is with those temperatures for everything being mid-30s right now, nothing's sticking. That's the key factor.
Hey, you know what, Michael? It's kind of good weather this weekend. If you didn't get your decorations up, you could get it done this weekend.
It's still early. I mean, it's early December.
There you go. Hey, my tree is up.
I'm going to miss my people shopping Christmas Eve if I do them today.
Well, you could still go shopping Christmas Eve. Just put your decorations up so they can enjoy them as they drive by now.
And I haven't.
That's all right. All right, during this pandemic, a lot of schools across the country have been concerned about potential learning loss. And now new data suggests that students are doing better than many had expected. KOAM's Zach Dodge has more.
From shutdowns and quick shifts to remote learning in the spring, to isolations and changes to the school day in the fall, this year has been filled with disruptions for students. Things that many worried would cause learning loss in schools. But it might not be as bad as many had feared.
We did find that we're about 3% lower this fall to last fall in reading, and we're about 10% lower in math.
And those numbers that Joplin is seeing are being seen nationwide. The NWEA looked at MAP testing in 3rd through 8th grade and estimates that students performed similarly to students in fall 2019 in reading and were down between 5 and 10% in math.
We analyze the data on each student, and depending on the area they need help with, maybe it's algebraic thinking, maybe it's vocabulary, we have interventions designed for each of those students.
Here in Neosho, they don't quite have the numbers they need to compare to fall of 2019 because they recently changed their assessment system. But from feedback from principals and teachers, they aren't doing bad either.
We were concerned that it would be up to 6 to 9 months of learning loss based on sometimes what happens in summer. But while there was still learning loss, it wasn't as substantial as we thought it would have been.
Neosho's getting ready to do a winter assessment so they can compare what they saw in September with what they're seeing now. Joplin is currently doing the same.
What every district in Missouri is trying to mine out of that data is how do we accelerate our students' growth, because in the end, we don't want them to have learning loss.
In Joplin and Neosho, Zach Dodge, KOAM News.
And we have the full report from NWEA on our website at KOAMnewsnow.com. Some students at Pittsburg State University get a much needed financial boost as the university finishes distributions of CARES Act funding. In the summer, PSU applied for the Higher Education Emergency Relief Fund that would send schools money to use for emergency grants for students who were displaced due to the pandemic. PSU received a total of more than $2.6 million for students. Funds were distributed in 3 phases. The first phase went to Pell Grant students who automatically qualified to receive the funds. The second and third phases were distributed to students who applied for the funds and were eligible. Full-time students received $800 and part-timers received $400, with leftover funds distributed amongst all eligible students. On Monday, the Joplin City Council held a strategic planning session and came up with a list of goals for the city to reach. One of those involves improving the city's appearance, and that includes public areas maintained by the city. Areas like sidewalks, curbs, right-of-ways, and city parks are all part of that goal for areas of improvement. City leaders say they developed this goal after noticing some of the city's public areas were not quite up to the standards they'd like. However, the new contract with Parkwood Tournament LLC should help the Parks Department get back to what they need to focus on. Kansas Governor Laura Kelly said Wednesday the state expects to receive its first shipment of a COVID-19 vaccine in a few weeks. She said the vaccine will be distributed in 3 phases. Her plan is to line with recommendations from the CDC. According to Kelly, Kansas is expected to receive 24,000 doses of Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine in mid-December and roughly another 49,000 from Moderna shortly after. In all, the state is expecting to have 150,000 doses by the end of December, with more coming in weekly after that. That's a look at our top news stories coming up this half hour on the KOAM Morning News. Our very own Jesse Irwin sits down with Olympic silver medalist and Kansas politician Jim Ryan. Plus, recent military moves by Russia are leading the Pentagon to project an increasingly hard line with the Kremlin and Beijing. We'll have the latest, but first it's 5:37.
Mostly rain, but yeah, there is some snow out there in southwest Missouri, especially between Cassville, Monette up to Mount Vernon. A little bit of it even creeping into Jasper County right there. It's not going to stick around because our temperatures are already in the mid-30s. Chilly Thursday, low 40s, because we're going to get that rain out of here this afternoon. Be back. World Watch next. World Watch this morning, recent military moves by Russia are leading the Pentagon to project an increasingly hard line with the Kremlin and Beijing. Jennifer Griffin reports on a reorganization of the service to adjust to the changing global realities.
This week, Russian forces deployed state-of-the-art air defense systems to islands claimed by Japan, an aggressive power play targeting a U.S. ally.
We will rename Fleet Forces Command as the U.S. Atlantic Fleet.
On Capitol Hill, the Navy's top civilian leader announced a name change to Naval Forces Protecting the Homeland, reminiscent of the Cold War, less than the War on Terror.
The Atlantic Fleet will confront the reassertive Russian Navy, which has been deploying closer and closer to our east coast.
In August, the Russian Navy conducted major war games near Alaska involving dozens of ships and aircraft, the largest exercises in decades, which alarmed local fishermen not used to sailing near Russian submarines.
U.S. fishermen should not feel threatened by another nation.
China's naval advances have also piqued U.S. interest. The Pentagon says China now has the largest navy in the world.
We need to protect every shipyard we have. The Chinese, ma'am, have 25 shipyards to our 1.
NATO, too, is shifting its focus beyond Russia.
China does not share our values. It undermines human rights. It bullies other countries.
We have to change. We cannot wait. We have adversaries that are moving quickly. If we wait a year or two for a clear 90% picture, we'll not catch up.
These warnings come as Congress announced an agreement on a $740 billion National Defense Authorization Act, a bill to fund the military that the president is threatening to veto over the renaming of military bases and an arcane technology statute. According to lawmakers, the NDAA will not include Section 230. It was a landmark landing for China as one of its spacecraft safely arrived on the moon. The unmanned lander began drilling for its first samples of rocks and other lunar debris that it plans to bring back to Earth. Powered by solar panels, it will spend roughly 2 days collecting about a little more than 4.5 pounds of moon material for research. If the mission's successful, samples will land in China in mid-December. Scientists are hoping the rocks and debris will help them learn more about the moon, including its precise age. China says it will make these samples available to researchers in other countries. Santa Claus coming to town on the waves as 150 people donned Santa suits, hopped on jet skis along Australia's Gold Coast, all done for a children's charity. Some of the jet skis even decorated to look like sleighs. Took to the waters over the weekend to raise money for children in residential care and attempted to break the previous record. Yes, this record actually does exist, of 129 jet skis holding Santas. That was set back in 2014. In some parts of the world, Santa Claus swims with fishes and sharks. It sounds like something out of Sopranos right there. This is Malta's National Aquarium, where Santa in the tank, full dive equipment, and feeding those hungry fish. And yes, there was a shark in there, a zebra shark. Luckily, I was told he was on his best behavior. So look at some of our biggest stories from around the world now, as far as our KOAM News Now Facebook page and morning Instapoll go this morning. As if 2020 couldn't get any bizarre, have you heard about these monoliths that are popping up? Well, there was one in Utah, and then one popped up in Romania, and now there's a new one that popped up in California. But here's the thing. They pop up and then they disappear. Nobody seems to know how they get there or where they go. Dave Sorek says perhaps it's a John McCracken art installation. And Dave says, if so, I can't wait to see one at Crystal Bridges. And how long do we have to wait for the first political post on this topic? Pun intended. Dave, wait no longer. Guys got us. Thank you, Guy, and thank you, Dave. Michelle Piscini. She says fact, placed by aliens. Got sick of everyone fighting over politics. Wanted the human race to argue over something else. Morning, mama, morning, KOAM. By the way, the body snatchers are not coming next, Michelle. It doesn't happen until March. On the KOAM Insta poll this morning, who do you think made the monolith? 72% say publicity stunt. I wish we could have gone with really smart artists. Nobody thinks aliens. 14% of you think it's the government. Go to KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. We'll have fun. It's Thursday. We got snow. What are you going to do? We'll be back right after this.
Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. Some students at Pittsburg State University get a much needed financial boost as the university finishes distributions of CARES Act funding. PSU received a total of more than $2.6 million for students. The funds were distributed in 3 phases. The first phase went to Pell Grant students who automatically qualified to receive the funds. Second and third phases were distributed to students who applied for the funds and were eligible. New data suggests learning loss during the pandemic has not been as bad as originally feared. NWEA says reading assessments were similar this semester to fall of 2019. And in math, they were between 5 and 10% lower. That's nationwide. And for grades 3 through 8, Joplin says they've seen similar numbers. Their reading assessment showed a 3% drop and math dropped 10%. Joplin City Council sets goals on improving the city's appearance, and that includes public areas maintained by the city. Areas like sidewalks, curbs, right-of-ways, and city parks are all part of that goal for areas of improvement. City leaders say they developed this goal after noticing some of the city's public areas were not quite up to the standards they'd like. Kansas Governor Laura Kelly said Wednesday the state expects to receive its first shipment of a COVID-19 vaccine in a few weeks. She said the vaccine will be distributed in 3 phases. Her plan is in line with recommendations from the CDC. Kansas is expected to receive 24,000 doses of Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine in mid-December and roughly another 49,000 from Moderna shortly after. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
Test scores didn't go down because I opted out. I saved them. I was like, nah. No, kids, if I take this, like, I'm going to ruin the national average. And you guys are a whole lot smarter than me. Skywatch Storm Tracker, mostly rain, but we do see snow ranging from Cassville to Monette to Mount Vernon, a little bit creeping back to the west into Jasper and Barton County. Not sticking around because our temperature is already in the mid-30s. It's going to be a cloudy and cool one today. Even after the rain leaves in the afternoon, we're only going to go low 40s for the most part. But you see the rain will move off to the east and turn back. Everything will turn back into rain here later this morning. Then it'll push off toward the east. Then the cloud cover goes. And so Friday morning, yeah, it's going to be chilly right there, right at the freezing mark Friday morning. But look, there's no clouds, there's no rain, and look at what happens on the 7-day forecast. Shoot that sunshine at us all weekend and next week long, stay dry, and it's going to be absolutely gorgeous with temps in the 50s. All the latest on the Skywatch weather app. The KOAM TV Toy Box campaign is underway, and we're asking for your help this year to make it a Merry Christmas for all of our 4-state children. We're asking you to donate new unwrapped toys, or if you'd like to make a monetary donation, we'll go do the shopping for you. And those toys go to distribution centers around the 4 states. Families then have a chance to shop for the children on their list. And that way we all come together to make sure every child has a present on Christmas morning. Now, if you'd like to help, here's a couple of ways. You can drop off a new unwrapped toy at our stations. You can do so in Joplin at 7th and Rangeline. Or you can come to the Mothership just south of Pittsburgh on Highway 69. If you find it easier, you can donate with credit card during what we call our Toy Box Tuesday telethons. We run those every Tuesday during the noon, 5 and 6 o'clock newscasts. And you can also do so online at any time. Just go to KOAMnewsnow.com or on the KOAM News app. Special thanks to those of you who have donated toys and made monetary donations. And a thank you in advance to those of you who make it an annual event during the holiday season. Now it's time to send it over to our own Jesse Irwin, joined by a man who really needs no introduction. It's a former Olympic silver medalist, a middle distance record holder, and a former politician, as Jesse talks to Jim Ryan.
Well, this morning we are fortunate enough to be joined by a Presidential Medal of Freedom recipient, a Kansas native, track and field legend, and former U.S. Congressman, Mr. Jim Ryan. Mr. Ryan, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us this morning. Where are you joining us from this morning?
I'm from Washington, D.C.
And I know that, hearing impairment is something that's really important in helping those who are hearing impaired overcome the adversity of it. Can you sort of paint a picture of what your journey with hearing impairment has been like and how you've been able to help others?
Well, at a young age, approximately 5, I lost about half of my hearing as a result of a very, very high fever. It was not really picked up on at that point. I noticed in the classroom difficulty in hearing questions and listening and hearing the teacher. My family medical doctor would say that my hearing loss was fine. It really was normal, but it wasn't until we get into further, better hearing test me, I say, that it was discovered I had a loss. In fact, that's one thing I'd like to say to people. If you think you have a hearing loss, you probably do. Ask somebody near you, a friend, a relative, perhaps your spouse, and they'll confirm that you've got a loss. And then I would suggest a good quality hearing test. You might go to an audiologist, someone who can give you a good test to determine if you do have a hearing loss. And then, look for a good system. I happen to wear a Phonak Lyric. They're fabulous. They sit on top of the eardrum. They give crystal clear hearing, and it's improved the quality of my life enormously, and it will for those who choose to go this path.
What can we do to be helpful to those who are dealing with it? Because I know sometimes, it can be more than just speaking up. It can be using your hands when you're talking. I mean, I'm sure there's lots of different ways, but which ones have stuck out to you as sort of the best ways to be an advocate?
Well, I think one thing is to be sympathetic to them. If you feel that they've got a hearing loss, encourage them to get some assistance, first of all. and to look again for good testing and try and determine what the loss is. But, maybe get a little closer, speak a little more distinctly. And if you're not getting answers that are the correct answers that you think you should get, probably they have a hearing loss. So just encouraging them to, go into that area and explore what's available, what can help them.
Well, Mr. Ryan, we really appreciate you taking the time to join us this morning. When we come back, we're going to be speaking with Mr. Ryan about his career and about what he learned from serving political office and, of course, being a track and field legend. So we'll have more with Jim Ryan a little bit later in this morning when we return.
Still coming down, mostly rain, but we do see snow there in southwest Missouri, ranging from Cassville, Monette to Mount Vernon, a little bit of it. Scooting back east, trying to get to Carthage right there, but it's not going to stick around as our temperatures are in the mid-30s. No travel concerns. 40s today, chilly, but sunshine coming up this weekend.
Some students at Pittsburg State University get a much-needed financial boost through the distributions of CARES Act funding. New data suggests learning loss during the pandemic hasn't been as bad as originally feared, and Kansas Governor Laura Kelly expects the state to receive its first shipment of a COVID-19 vaccine in a few weeks.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 6 a.m. I'm Tanya Bach. Coming up this half hour, as ominous monoliths continue to spread up around the world, we want to know what you think they are. Make sure to weigh in on our Facebook and our website at KOAMnewsnow.com for our Insta poll and vote. Our very own Jesse Irwin sits down with Olympic silver medalist and Kansas former politician Jim Ryan. But first, a check on your forecast.
For those parents joining us right now who may have just kicked your teenager out to go to a morning basketball practice, thank you so much for the patience that you have in dealing with teenagers having to get up pre-sunrise and their attitude as they head toward high school and practice.
And for the parents who had to give them a ride, too, this early.
What do you want, Dad? Just making sure you're okay. Yes, leave me alone. 6 o'clock in the morning. I got basketball practice. Oh, it's so great. Here's a nice thing. If you do have to get your kids on the road, if they're driving, they won't have any travel concerns, even though we're seeing snow there from Cassville up to Mount Vernon and Greenfield, and then coming back to the west, it's not sticking on the ground at all. And here's the key factor from the Freeman Health System Sky Camera. We sit at 33 degrees. That's a very important number. You may go, well, what's the difference between 32 and 33? Well, fact of the matter is since we were able to stay above freezing, it's the ground heating up. And so while the flakes are coming down, I saw a fair amount this morning. Once they hit that asphalt, they're not sticking around. It's pretty much melt on contact. And so that's great news. You can see that band of moisture from the Gulf is now pushed toward the Mississippi. It's going to be a chilly Thursday, though. Even after this rain breaks up and pushes off toward the east, it's going to just be low 40s today. Now, overnight, we clear off the cloud cover, drop back down around freezing. But look at the 7-day forecast. We're going to roll sunshine and temperatures in the 50s into the weekend. So it's like a one-shot affair. They got 1.5 inches of snow west of Wichita. We're lucky. We'll take it.
Yeah, we'll take it. We like that.
Now, I know everybody's going to be chomping at the bit here in 22 days, wanting the snow to come back. I don't think it will, but I know in the middle of the week, everybody's like, oh, I don't want to, I don't want to have to drive in that. And we're lucky right now. And I know in 22 days, people are going to be asking me, where's that? We want a white Christmas.
Everybody always wants a white Christmas until it's here, and then they realize they have to deal with the snow.
But I've been dreaming of one.
Oh, man. Now you got it in my head. Oh. All right, thanks, Michael.
You fell for that one.
Some students at Pittsburg State University are getting some much-needed financial relief as the university's distribution of CARES Act funding comes to an end. KOAM's Caitlin Shive has more on the Higher Education Emergency Relief Fund and what it's all about.
Sophomore Abby Noble was excited to find out she was eligible for grant money that would help her after being displaced due to the pandemic.
This summer I applied for the CARES Act money. I got an email and I was all like, well, the worst is that they'll do is just tell me no. So then I got an email a month or so later saying I got it, and I was like, oh, well, that's sweet. And then I just put in my savings. And then I got an email a couple of days ago saying that I got more money. And so I read into it and I was like, wow, that's really neat that the college put back money to give to those of us who were quarantined and had COVID really affect our lives.
The money comes from the CARES Act Higher Education Emergency Relief Fund. Pittsburgh State University applied for the fund in the summer and was approved. More than $2.6 million has been distributed to eligible students since.
They had to have been enrolled in the spring semester and displaced. They couldn't have been a fully online enrolled student from the very beginning because they were not displaced because of the pandemic. So these students could have used those funds for whatever they felt necessary, if it was upgrading their laptops or, like I said, if they had to install Wi-Fi in their home.
For Abby, she put her funds into her savings and used it for rent.
I put it towards my rent and towards my classes, so that's been nice since I wasn't working during that time.
Funds were distributed in 3 phases, first to Pell Grant students who were automatically eligible, and second and third phases to students who applied and were found to be eligible.
We had around 2,500 students that received the funding.
$800 went to full-time students and $400 went to part-time students in each phase, with leftover funds being distributed amongst all applicants.
We tried to unilaterally share the rest of the funds equally amongst all the students.
In Pittsburgh, Caitlin Shive, KOAM News.
The last distribution, phase 3 of the funds, was completed last week. New data suggests learning loss during the pandemic has not been as bad as originally feared, and that's according to the nonprofit student assessment organization NWEA. The organization says reading assessments were similar this semester to fall of 2019. And in math, they were between 5 and 10% lower. That's nationwide, and for grades 3 through 8. Joplin says they've seen similar numbers. Their reading assessment showed a 3% drop, and math dropped 10%. On Monday, the Joplin City Council held a strategic planning session and came up with a list of goals for the city to reach. One of those involves improving the city's appearance, and that includes public areas maintained by the city. Areas like sidewalks, curbs, right-of-ways, and city parks are all part of that goal for areas of improvement. City leaders say they developed this goal after noticing some of the city's public areas were not quite up to the standards they'd like. However, the new contract with Parkwood Tournament LLC should help the Parks Department get back to what they need to focus on. Kansas Governor Laura Kelly said Wednesday the state expects to receive its first shipment of a COVID-19 vaccine in a few weeks. She said the vaccine will be distributed in 3 phases, and her plan is in line with recommendations from the CDC. According to Governor Kelly, Kansas is expected to receive 24,000 doses of Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine in mid-December and roughly another 49,000 from Moderna shortly after. In all, the state is expecting to have 150,000 doses by the end of December, with more coming in weekly after that. It's 6:07.
As far as what we're looking at for our weather trend today, get rid of the rain and snow that we have. It's not going to stick around. The temperature is going to be in the low 40s. When we do throw on the Skywatch Storm Tracker, to give you an idea of exactly what we're looking at precipitation-wise, let's remove the cloud cover there so we get a better view of our color codes. Do see the snow on the eastern portion of southwest Missouri, everything moving off to the east. Going to flip over to rain here by mid-morning. Everything out here, it's actually going to make more of a northeasterly track, and so we're not going to see a whole lot of accumulation off of it either. Now, you're sitting out there, say Chanute, Iola, yeah, you probably run into some snowflakes here by later this morning. But like I said, with temperatures in the mid-30s, nothing going to stick around, so don't worry about it impacting our travel. Cool Thursday, low 40s, and then after that, let's just lock into 50s and sunshine headed into a delightful December weekend.
That's a look at this morning's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Coming up on the KOAM Morning News.
Oh, Christmas tree. I'm Nancy Chin with why more Americans are looking to buy real trees this year to create some holiday cheer.
Plus, the CDC is issuing new guidance on coronavirus quarantine measures. You're watching the KOAM Morning News. More real news in the morning. We'll be right back. The pandemic has changed almost every aspect of life.
And that has many people leaning on an old tradition for a sense of normalcy. Here's Nancy Chen.
Dad, look at this one.
The Myers family looked long and hard.
How about that one?
To find the perfect Christmas tree.
You guys good at this?
It's a scene playing out at tree sellers nationwide. Seems the pandemic has people getting into the holiday spirit.
How about this one right here?
People are also cooped up in their houses. They're looking for something they can do.
And that's leading to a boost in business.
We knew people were going to come out. We knew we would be busy, but we didn't know it was going to be this much of an increase.
In one survey, 21% of people said they were more likely to get a real tree this year after having an artificial tree last year or no tree at all.
And why is that?
Well, no doubt because of the stress of the pandemic.
Doug Hunley with the National Christmas Tree Association says the desire to decorate follows a trend seen all year.
The nation's garden centers just had their best year in decades. People gardening, landscaping, and we hope and think that it can lead right into a big decorating year with real trees, garlands, wreaths.
There's been scattered tree shortages in recent years because of the economy, fires, and drought. Sellers have some concern about supplies, but right now most are well stocked, giving the Myers family plenty of options.
This year's Christmas tree, this year's been a rough year, and you're going to bring us through Christmas.
Appreciation for a Christmas to remember during a year many would like to forget. Nancy Chen.
This tree is heavy.
CBS News, New York.
The government says when it comes to air travel, only dogs can be service animals.
I heard this story because it reminded me of that one we did where the horse was on the plane. Yeah, that ain't happening anymore, folks. Transportation Department issued a ruling yesterday that says companions used for emotional support do not count as service animals. You can no longer take your horse on a plane.
Under the final rule, a service animal is a dog trained to help a person with a disability. The move will likely force some passengers to check their animals into the cargo hold for a fee or leave them at home.
Like the horse.
What if it's of a different color?
Ouch. I walked into that one right there. You got me. KOAM News Now Facebook page this morning and our Insta poll. Talking about these monoliths that keep popping up. You had one in Utah, then it disappeared. You had one in Romania, then it disappeared. Now you got a new one in California. We're asking, where in the world do you think they come from? We're just having some fun on this Thursday. There she is, the one in California. Kenny Kimmel, he says he believes it has all the makings of a well-funded publicity stunt. And he's a member of the club. Thank you. Merle Bass, a distraction for the mainstream media mouthpieces, the distraction from the threat at hand. Merle, no, over here, bright shiny objects. Over here, we're good. Lynette Rush Watson says, just kind of creepy, just saying. Dave Pitts Sr., I love this. Top secret 5G signal boosters capable of melting your brain and other organs. Dave, you and I get along listening to Night Vale together. Carrie Van Dyke. Maybe. Maybe. As a matter of fact, Carrie, you and I are gaining traction on the Insta poll this morning. That's right. We've now got it up to 23% that the aliens are dropping them off. 51% of you are with Kenny and you say publicity stunt. 9% still say the government. And I guess 12% are just like, get off my lawn, kids. Hooligans playing a prank. Let's come back, update the radar right after this. 6:17 on a wet Thursday morning. Great time for weather on the 7s as our rain has remained constant through the Skywatch storm tracker. On that west to east band, the snow is actually the one on the move as it pushes off to the eastern portion of southwest Missouri, not able to really accumulate because of our warm ground temperatures, and when I say warm, at least above freezing. See the storm reports coming out Wichita and to the west. I got about 1.5 inches of snow, and then we're seeing it come down in central Missouri, so all things considered, we've kind of lucked out. We've already picked up about 0.7 of an inch right there in Joplin. Chanute getting close to about 1/2 inch of rain down south. Grove, Miami, cruising past an inch, about 1.25 inches, 1.5 inches. When you go back from where it started 24 hours ago. 33 degrees from the Freeman Health System sky camera in Joplin. These temperatures making sure that we don't have any travel concerns, even with a little wintry mix. Sunrise over Joplin on the bus stop forecast. It's going to be a cloudy one. We'll call it 7:15. Everything is going to revert back into rain and eventually push east toward the Mississippi River. As Future Track will indicate, it's going to be a cloudy and cool one, though, as we're in the 40s. Now, as we work from Thursday evening into Friday morning, that's when we get clearing out skies. That does drop us down back to the freezing point, but look at this headed into the weekend. Very seasonable, mild temps, 50 degrees, and a whole bunch of sunshine. Now it's time to check back in with Jesse, who is able to catch up with Olympian Jim Ryan. Jesse?
Well, this morning we are fortunate enough to be joined by someone who is named the top high school athlete of all time by ESPN.com. This is Mr. Jim Ryan. You are not only a track and field legend, but you also are a former U.S. congressman. And this summer you received the United States Medal of Freedom from President Trump. And we really, really appreciate you joining us this morning, Mr. Ryan. Thank you.
Happy to be on with you.
I want to ask you about your running career first. What ultimately is your relationship with running now compared to maybe when you were in your 20s and 30s?
Well, first of all, it was something, it wasn't my first choice. I mean, I wanted to play baseball, and when you're cut from the church baseball team, there's not a bright future. When you're cut from the junior high basketball team, the same thing. I even tried out for junior high track and field and couldn't make the team. And then 2 years later, I made my first team as a cross-country runner, and then on my first Olympic team. And I attribute that to a simple prayer as a young boy growing up. Dear God, look at my life. It's not going well, and I would appreciate your help. If you could show up in sports, I'd like that. So it's been a journey that I would never have imagined. I mean, at the end of 2 years of running, I'm the first high school boy to run under 4 minutes. At the end of those 2 years, I was on my first Olympic team, 1964 Tokyo Olympics. And so there are many wonderful and rich experiences that came from all of that. My running now is primarily almost a shuffle. I still like to run, but it's much, much slower, and yet I have all those wonderful experiences to reflect upon.
Well, it's clear that running probably played a major role in your confidence when it came to running for office, right? So, I mean, what ultimately serving as a legislator and serving as a representative of the United States at the Olympics, I mean, what is ultimately what's the common ground there between being a politician and being a professional athlete? Is there a lot?
Well, there are some similarities in the sense that I had a wonderful coach who taught me to establish goals and good discipline along the way. And those were attributes that transferred well from the athletics to serving in Congress. And I'm grateful for that.
What role of social distancing and I mean, just in this world of COVID-19 right now, I mean, how do you think that state athletic associations and conferences should be approaching the keeping kids safe and keeping their families safe while also providing these opportunities that, like in your case, created a lifetime career?
Well, let me just say this. The challenges that come as a result of this pandemic have been interesting and challenging because you've got masks that are worn, you've got social distancing, and for those that want to participate in sports, there are all the challenges of how you do that. And I think what we're slowly seeing is a graduation or gradual changing from doing nothing or allowing the athletes to participate in sports with the recognition that they have to be careful and safe. And I think as those particular guidelines are followed, we're seeing an expansion of that in high school sports.
Well, we will have our full conversation with Grampy on the KOAM Morning Show page. Just head to KOAMnewsnow.com. Mr. Ryan, thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Appreciate it. We'll be right back after this.
Topping Health Watch this morning, the CDC issues new guidance on coronavirus quarantine measures. Nationwide, more than 271,000 people have died from COVID-19. As states work to get the virus under control, doctors, particularly those in rural states, are struggling to provide care. Chris Martinez reports from Los Angeles.
As coronavirus cases set records across the country, the CDC is shortening its recommended 14-day quarantine period for those exposed to the virus.
Quarantine can end after 10 days without a COVID-19 test if the person has reported no symptoms or after 7 days with a negative test result if the person has reported no symptoms.
On Tuesday, the U.S. reported the second highest single-day death toll since the pandemic began. Nearly 2,600 people lost their lives.
There's only so many 12-hour shifts you can do in a week.
It's taking an emotional toll on frontline healthcare workers like Dr. Scott Samlin, an emergency room doctor in Indiana, which has the second highest COVID hospitalization rate in the country.
Every day it's the same. COVID patients, people sick, people on ventilators, people dying.
This hospital in upstate New York is preparing beds and equipment for an anticipated surge during the holidays.
December and January and February are going to be rough times.
Here in California, the state reported a record number of new cases and hospitalizations Tuesday, with more than 7,500 new cases in Los Angeles County alone.
If these trends continue, we're going to have to take much more dramatic, arguably drastic action.
On Tuesday, a CDC panel recommended healthcare workers and nursing home residents be the first to be vaccinated against the coronavirus.
Ultimately, there will be enough vaccine for everybody in the United States that wants to get a vaccine to get a vaccine.
As the UK prepares to roll out its vaccine next week, Trump administration officials say the first shipments of Pfizer's vaccine will be delivered to the U.S. by mid-December. Chris Martinez, CBS News, Los Angeles.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer say they're now in favor of a bipartisan $908 billion coronavirus stimulus plan. The move is a massive concession from Pelosi, who held out for a multi-trillion-dollar deal for months. That's a look at some of today's top health stories. You're watching the KOAM Morning News.
It's rain coming down for the most part, but yeah, there is a little snow here on the eastern portion of southwest Missouri. But I want to point out right here around Mount Vernon on I-44, because we're starting to see it flip back over to rain. That's a great thing. And our ground temperatures aren't going to support much accumulation, so it really is going to limit our travel impact. Shouldn't have any problem. Starting to see it creep in the northwest just a little bit as well. Nothing like what they had west of Wichita. They picked up 1.5 inches of snow. Ours is mostly just going to stay as rain. It's going to be chilly today, though, even after it clears out here later this morning. Highs only in the low 40s.
Some students at Pittsburg State University get a much-needed financial boost through the distributions of CARES Act funding. New data suggests learning loss during the pandemic hasn't been as bad as originally feared, and Kansas Governor Laura Kelly expects the state to receive its first shipment of a COVID-19 vaccine in a few weeks.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
Good morning and welcome to the KOAM Morning News. It's 6:30. I'm Tanya Bach. Coming up this half hour, Congress is inching closer to a compromise on a coronavirus stimulus package that could put money in the hands of people who need it most. And as ominous monoliths continue to sprout up around the world, we want to know what you think they are. Please weigh in on our Facebook discussion. But first, a check on your forecast.
Live look outside of Television City, where we've got Old Glory illuminated there. Travel conditions not too bad, even with the fact that we've had some snow that's coming down. Remove the cloud cover right there, and we get a closer look of exactly where the rain has slipped over into snow as it pushes off to the east, and then we've got a little bit out to the northwest as well. But the key factor from the Freeman Health System sky camera being the temperatures above the freezing point, albeit barely in Joplin, 33 degrees. But the nice thing is our ground able to absorb that rain and snow and just kind of melt it as soon as it hits. So that was great news as we see the system pushing toward the Mississippi River. Now, it's going to be a chilly Thursday, mostly cloudy skies, even as the rain dissipates mid-morning. Only going to be in the low 40s for the most part. Clouds are going to clear off here throughout the course of the evening and nighttime hours. So that's going to drop us right back down to the freezing point there for early Friday morning. But as we shift into the weekend, it's going to be absolutely delightful for September, as temperatures will sit in the 50s with a whole bunch of sunshine in the next week.
All right, lots of sunshine. It's going to be beautiful.
Yeah, like I said, we get done with this morning, and we're seeing that snow shift back into rain right now, which is great, just in time for travel. I've been checking all our Department of Transportation websites. Don't see any travel concerns right now.
I'm digging that next Wednesday temperature. 64.
You digging that?
Yeah.
Was that Mazio's that used to do that? I'm digging it. It may have been before your time when you got here. It's an old Mazio's commercial.
Or I could be like McDonald's.
Somebody out there knows what I'm talking about.
I could be like McDonald's too. I'm loving it.
Okay.
There we go. There's a somewhere somebody says it. It'll work.
We can do that.
All right, some students at Pittsburg State University get a much needed financial boost as the university finishes distributions of CARES Act funding. In the summer, PSU applied for the Higher Education Emergency Relief Fund that would send schools money to use for emergency grants for students who were displaced due to the pandemic. PSU received a total of more than $2.6 million for students. The funds were distributed in 3 phases. The first phase went to Pell Grant students who automatically qualified to receive the funds. Second and third phases were distributed to students who applied for the funds and were eligible. Full-time students received $800 and part-timers received $400, with leftover funds distributed amongst all eligible students. New data suggests learning loss during the pandemic has not been as bad as originally feared, and that's according to the nonprofit student assessment organization NWEA. The organization says reading assessments were similar this semester to the fall of 2019. And in math, they were between 5 and 10% lower. That's nationwide for grades 3 through 8. Joplin says they've seen similar numbers. Their reading assessment showed 3% drop and math dropped 10%.
I think what every district in Missouri is trying to mine out of that data is how do we accelerate our students' growth, because in the end, we don't want them to have learning loss. We want that good learning to take place.
On Monday this week, the Joplin City Council held a strategic planning session. During that session, they developed a list of goals they'd like to achieve. KOAM's Chris Warner has more on one of those goals.
The goal we're focusing on is improving community appearance, which includes public areas maintained by the city, like the parks.
As you drive by our parks, we tend to see trash in the stream bed, to maybe the parks not as maintained as we would like them to be. And so it's exploring all those different ways that we can improve the part of the community that we're responsible for.
Mayor Ryan Stanley says it's more about maintenance.
It's mainly us just maintaining and taking good care of the public infrastructure, our parks, the things that already exist, to make sure that they are well cared for and worthy of the city.
And the city will be looking at how to beef up maintenance across the community, which could include help from the public, as well as reallocating funding and resources. Paul Bloomberg is the Parks and Recreation Director, and he says they have more than 1,000 acres of public space to maintain, and that includes 24 city parks.
Take Mercy Park, for instance. It is a beautiful park, probably one of our flagship parks now. But the amount of flower beds and areas that we have to maintain, it takes just a whole crew all summer just to maintain that area.
Bloomberg says one thing that will be helpful is the new baseball contract with Parkwood Tournament, LLC.
That's going to allow us to reallocate some of our time that we've spent on athletic facilities over to the Parks Department, simply helping us, trash pickup. And when I say trash pickup, I'm not talking about out of trash cans. It's just trash that's throughout our parks.
Bloomberg says he's not surprised parks made the list.
And I'm not surprised by any comments whatsoever. We know that we need help. They know that we need help. And there's other departments within the city that are in the same boat.
In Joplin, Chris Warner, KOAM News.
That goal also includes areas like streets, sidewalks, and curbs that are in need of improvement. Kansas Governor Laura Kelly said Wednesday the state expects to receive its first shipment of a COVID-19 vaccine in a few weeks. She said the vaccine will be distributed in 3 phases. Her plan is in line with recommendations from the CDC. According to Governor Kelly, Kansas is expected to receive 24,000 doses of Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine in mid-December, and roughly another 49,000 from Moderna shortly after. In all, the state is expecting to have 150,000 doses by the end of December, with more coming in weekly after that. That's a look at our top news stories. Coming up this half hour on the KOAM Morning News, Congress is inching closer to a compromise on a coronavirus stimulus package that could put money in the hands of people who need it most. Plus, as ominous monoliths continue to spread up around the world, we want to know what you think they are and where they're coming from. We will let you weigh in. But first, it's 6:37.
Got our snow flipping over to rain here as it pushes on the eastern edge of southwest Missouri. The rain continues across the state line into Kansas. It's a chilly Thursday as temperatures will only be in the low 40s after the rain breaks up here late morning hours. Nice thing is as the clouds will decrease nighttime into Friday, 50s and sunshine headed into the weekend. We'll be back with Nation Watch right after this.
Topping Nation Watch this morning, Congress is inching closer to a compromise on a coronavirus stimulus package that could put money in the hands of people who need it most. The bipartisan group of lawmakers is hoping to strike a deal before the Christmas holidays. Deborah Alfarone has the details from Washington.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer are embracing a $900+ billion bipartisan coronavirus package with more funding for small businesses, state and local governments, and unemployment benefits. Support for the plan is a massive concession from Pelosi, who is holding out for a bill twice that size.
This isn't a political game. This impacts on people's real lives and families. It impacts on all of you, all of us. And we need to get help out the door as soon as we can.
But Republican Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell is pushing his own much smaller plan. It's similar to legislation he proposed earlier this year, which was a targeted $500 billion bill focused on small businesses, schools, and liability protections. It would extend critical unemployment programs by just 1 month.
The president will sign the McConnell proposal that he put forward yesterday, and we look forward to making progress on that.
While Congress works here, many are not working. Millions of Americans are set to lose their unemployment benefits in weeks, and millions are facing eviction. President-elect Biden says no matter what happens, once he takes office January 20th, he'll pursue a sweeping stimulus package.
Any package passed in this so-called lame duck session be now on January 21st. At best, is only going to be a down payment on what's going to happen early next year.
Lawmakers are hoping to pass a stimulus bill before the Senate adjourns for its holiday recess on December 18th. Deborah Alfarone, CBS News, Washington.
A new study out of the University of Southern California projects without a concerted effort to slow the spread of the coronavirus, the U.S. economy could take a hit of nearly $5 trillion over 2 years. That's a look at today's top national stories. Let's check back in with Michael for our Morning Talker.
Thank you, Tanya. This morning on the KOAM News Now Facebook page and our morning Insta poll, another monolith popped up, this time in California, made of stainless steel, about 10 feet tall. You may remember that one popped up in Utah last week and then it just disappeared. And then another one showed up in Romania. And then now there's one in California. So we're just having some fun with it this morning. Asking if you know where they're coming from, what are they and what do they mean? Travis Ogle, he says someone has way too much money and way too much time on their hands. Becky Mangarelli says aliens trying to speed up our evolution, make humans smarter after surveying our current leader and all those that still believe the election was rigged. Becky says, probably just bored humans. I think it's almost a case of performance art and I like it. 54% of you right now, right down the middle. Boom. Say it's a publicity stunt. You can go to KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. I do find it interesting that we were able to get this thing off the ground, and right now we've got aliens with about 21% more than the government. Jump on board, folks. KOAMnewsnow.com/vote. Let's celebrate birthdays and anniversaries next.
We take this time to honor today's four-state hero. Harvey Haisler is a radio man first class in the United States Navy. He served in the Pacific from 1941 to 1947 aboard the USS Porter and the USS Amen, where he earned the Asiatic Pacific Medal with 7 stars. A native of Webb City, Missouri, we salute you, Harvey Haisler, our four-state hero.
And the birthday list begins with Kaiser Greishaber. Kaiser celebrating a big first birthday. And I tell you what, you can't replicate a smile like that. Kaiser, hey, very happy first birthday to you, kiddo.
And then we've got Kinley Johnson turning 6 years old in Oswego.
Now, we're a little belated, but I tell you what, if you're going to rock the sombrero and enjoy a birthday cake with that, it's never too late to wish Mason Scott Adamson a big number 8. Happy birthday, Mason.
All right. In Carthage, turning 8 years old as well, it's time to celebrate for Gracie Jean Fent. Happy birthday, Gracie.
A run out to Mountain Valley where Braden Hetty, whoa, hey, I could take some dressing tips from that sharp-dressed dude right there. A happy 11th to Braden.
And Traven Higgins turning 11 years old in Oswego. Happy birthday, Traven.
Solomon Scott, a big 12th birthday, S squared. Solomon, I want you to have a great day, buddy. He's in Cherokee.
In Arcadia, Sammy Stansberry celebrating birthday number 15 this year.
I like, Mom said put the dress shirt on. He's like, I will, but I'm still going to carry the football for the picture. Got it, Mom? And she's like, yeah, that works. Jason Cartwright celebrating a 23rd birthday.
All right, Jason. And James Humboldt turning 25 years old this year. Happy birthday to James and Scammon.
In Chanute, that is Mitchell Malone celebrating his 32nd. Happy birthday, Mitchell.
And Rhonda Riddle in Chanute as well. Rhonda turning the big 6-0 today. Hope it's a great one.
All right, Miss Mary DePriest, I want you to know that these happy birthday wishes come from both Sandra and Kenny as Miss DePriest celebrates her 90th birthday. Happy birthday in Columbus.
Happy birthday, Marie. And happy anniversary to Andrew and Crystal Grant. The Grants actually celebrated their 14th anniversary yesterday. They are in Lamar.
You know the drill. If you're out at medical lodges, practice that social distancing and make sure that you tell Samantha Rakestraw a happy birthday. Have a great day, Sam. Kristen Hillebrand Johnson celebrating 57. Kristen is in Girard. And happy birthday to Marilyn Schmidt as she celebrates in Columbus.
Kaylee Snyder turning 27 years old this year in Webb City. Down in Miami turning 21. It's time to celebrate for Deborah Lee Babb. And Tom and Shelley LaTurner, happy 30th anniversary in Scannon.
So this is a really neat one in Oswego because Henry Moss Jr. is celebrating his 96th birthday. But here's the key. Mr. Moss, these happy birthday wishes come from your sister. She's almost 100. She's quick to point out, she's not 100 yet. But she says happy birthday from your almost 100-year-old sister. So happy birthday, Mr. Moss. Tiffany Harrison, I didn't forget you. Miss Tiffany, there she is. Miss Tiffany celebrating her 33rd. Tiffany, a happy birthday in Pittsburgh. Happy birthday, happy anniversary to all. Here's Tanya Bach with a very important birthday announcement.
That's right. You can be a part of the KOAM Birthday Club by going to our website and signing up. And once you do, you'll get special deals from local businesses. Just go to KOAMnewsnow.com/birthdays. Sign up for the Birthday Club today.
Just about done with the snow on the eastern portion of southwest Missouri. Just a little bit coming down right here as everything pushes off to the east. Rain making its way across the state line. Now a little additional snow coming down on the far northwestern edge of our highlighted counties. Not going to impact our travel at all, and that's because our ground was able to stay above the freezing mark. Are getting a little, that's a storm report. Let's go check that out. Here, that's the great thing about live TV. New storm report pops up. I say we walk over here. We find out how much they got there on the other side of Springfield, just for grins. We can get an idea here. Where's my question mark? There we go. All right, so yeah, let's see what they got there along I-44. Half an inch. Grassy areas up in Webster County. We didn't see anything like that. Like I said, our ground was not too bad as far as being able to maintain anything. Everything pretty much melting when it hits. They get close to 1.5 inches of precip down there in northeast Oklahoma. See that along I-44. It's actually some needed rain, so it's certainly not too bad. Tell you what, after this pushes off, say about mid-morning, breaks up, turns back into rain, everything moves off to the east. Still going to be a chilly day though. Highs only in the low 40s. But then overnight we are going to clear off the skies and we're going to roll sunshine and 50s all the way into the weekend. How about some 60s right there? December 60-degree weather. Love that. Be back. Wrap up this edition of the KOAM Morning News right after this.
Here's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door. Some students at Pittsburg State University get a much-needed financial boost as the university finishes distributions of CARES Act funding. PSU received a total of more than $2.6 million for students. The funds were distributed in 3 phases. The first phase went to Pell Grant students who automatically qualified to receive the funds. Second and third phases were distributed to students who applied for the funds and were eligible. New data suggests learning loss during the pandemic has not been as bad as originally feared. NWEA says reading assessments were similar this semester to fall of 2019. And in math, they were between 5 and 10% lower. That's nationwide. And for grades 3 through 8. Joplin says they've seen similar numbers. The reading assessment showed a 3% drop and math dropped 10%. Joplin City Council sets goals on improving the city's appearance, and that includes public areas maintained by the city. Areas like sidewalks, curbs, right-of-ways, and city parks are all part of that goal for areas of improvement. City leaders say they developed this goal after noticing some areas of the city's public areas were not quite up to the standards they'd like. In Kansas, Governor Laura Kelly said Wednesday the state expects to receive its first shipment of a COVID-19 vaccine in a few weeks. She said the vaccine will be distributed in 3 phases, and her plan is in line with recommendations from the CDC. Kansas is expected to receive 24,000 doses of Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine in mid-December, roughly another 49,000 from Moderna shortly after. That's a check of today's top headlines, the news you need to know before you head out the door.
First snowflakes of the year, rather unimpressive, and that's not a bad thing because that means we don't have any travel concerns as we progress through our Thursday morning. Everything moving off to the east, and give you an idea of the snow on the far eastern edge there of southwest Missouri of our highlighted counties. A little bit trying to filter in from the northwest as well, but like I said, accumulation number is going to be nil as far as our snow goes. It was nice to get a little rain though, kind of needed that. After everything pushes out here later this morning, going to be cloudy and cool today. Highs only in the low 40s, but we're going to clear out the cloud cover here overnight. We're going to get up into the 50s on Friday. We're going to roll sunshine into the weekend. We're going to throw up some 60s there by the middle of next week.
KOAM Toy Box campaign is underway, and we need your help to make it a Merry Christmas for all 4 state children. We're asking our viewers to donate new unwrapped toys or donate money that will be used to buy toys.
Those toys are going to go to distribution centers around the 4 states, and then families have a chance to shop for children on their list. And that way we all make sure every 4-state child has a present come Christmas morning. Now, if you'd like to help, there are a couple of options. You can drop off your new unwrapped toy at our stations. If you're near Joplin, you can go to 7th and Range Line. Come out to the mothership, our main studio, just south of Pittsburgh on Highway 69. Or you can make a monetary donation during our Toy Box Tuesday telethon. We run those at the noon, 5, and 6 o'clock newscasts. Or you can do it at any time. It's as simple as going to KOAMnewsnow.com or using the KOAM News app.
Coming up today at noon, we're making Mrs. Claus's lemon cookies in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
Got your morning news continuing on KOAM. That's where the CBS Morning News is coming up next.
Or you can switch on over with us on Fox 14, where your only local morning news continues. And that's where Jesse joins us.
Yeah, well, you know, ESPN, I believe, it was named their top high school athletes of all time a few years ago, and they named LeBron James, they named Tiger Woods as some of the top ones, but the top high school athlete of all time was Jim Ryan. We're fortunate enough to be joined by him this morning, so we'll have that conversation over on Fox 14.
Yeah, great conversation you had with him, Jesse. Greatly appreciate you tracking him down. Always great to hear from Mr. Ryan. That wraps it up for this Thursday. Hey, we've talked about limited travel impacts, but please still slow down, be careful out there because we all want you to have a marvelous Thursday, and we'll do this all again tomorrow morning.
And we're going to do it again today at noon.